Coming up on New Day at Arirang, Russia suspended from the UN's leading human rights body for its war on Ukraine. This follows mounting allegations Russian troops killed Ukrainian civilians. 93 member states vote to expel Russia from the Human Rights Council. 24 vote against, 58 abstain. South Korea continuing to see a downtrend in the number of new COVID-19 cases. And as restrictions are steadily lifted, more international flights are coming back as people look to start traveling overseas once more. Plus, South Korea's president-elect Yoon visits a U.S. military base in South Korea. He touts the need to shore up the Seoul-Washington alliance, especially at a time of increased threats from North Korea.
Hello and welcome to this Friday edition of New Day at Arirang. It's 8 a.m. on April 8th here in Seoul, South Korea. Thank you for joining us. I'm Oh Young.
And I'm Mark Broom. Over the next hour, we will take a look at the big news stories of the day and get expert insights on the issues facing Korea and the world. We start, though, with the COVID-19 situation in South Korea. There's roughly 1 week to go before current social distancing measures are set to expire.
We still have yet to wait and see what major changes are ahead, but our reporter Shin Yoon is here to give us a glimpse of some of what is being discussed by authorities. Hello to you, Yoon.
Good morning.
Well, let's start off with the expected tally of the additional infections as of Friday.
Sure, Soo-young. So we're expecting to see today's caseload slightly above 200,000 because up to 9 p.m. on Thursday, there were 199,836 COVID-19 infections reported. And for the first time in 6 weeks, we've seen the tally reported for this time period fall below 200,000. While we're seeing an overall drop in COVID-19 figures, the number of infections traced back to children aged under 10 is still posing great concern. Roughly half of Korea's new infections have come from this age group. This is mainly because most children aged 9 or below have not been vaccinated. Authorities have just recently given the green light to administering COVID shots to children aged 5 to 11 that are obese, diabetic, or have weak immunity. But so far, only 0.7% of those eligible have gotten their first shots.
Right, yeah, and in South Korea, if someone is infected with COVID-19, they must self-isolate for a period of 7 days. Now, there is some talk about potentially shortening that period. What do we know about that?
Well, Mark, we still don't know the exact number of days authorities have in mind, but what we do know is that South Korea does look to other countries when considering antivirus measures. Over in the U.S. and U.K., the self-quarantine periods have been shortened to 5 days. It's not the first time South Korea has considered reducing the self-isolation period for the infected. If you recall, last December, when we first identified the Omicron strain, people infected were asked to self-isolate for 14 days. After authorities had more data on Omicron, they shortened this period to 10 days for the unvaccinated and 7 days for the fully vaccinated. From February this year, everyone, regardless of their vaccination status, were asked to quarantine for 7 days only.
Scientific data and real-life cases show that most people infected with COVID-19 don't pass the virus on to other people after a week has passed. So there was no reason to keep longer quarantine periods.
While authorities have yet to make a breakthrough in terms of the number of days it takes for a virus to become dormant, they are leaning towards shorter quarantine periods as a way to accelerate a return to normal life.
And while handling this pandemic as an endemic disease now, that's going to be a very challenging task for the next administration, which takes office in May. And well, the Transition Committee, they're already discussing new measures to really handle this virus and phase it out, really. So what's on their agenda right now?
Well, the Presidential Transition Committee is open to learning about any new side effects vaccinated people have experienced. Currently, South Korea has only compensated people with side effects acknowledged by the WHO, EMA, or FDA. But the new administration is set to acknowledge more side effects based on scientific evidence and compensate those who report them. In particular, they're thinking thinking of giving financial aid to those who go to the hospital for treatment for any vaccine side effect. They're also considering compensation for families who have had loved ones die for unknown reasons within 30 days of vaccination. They're also thinking of bringing in more alternative methods of treatment for those who cannot or do not want to be vaccinated, but also wish to be protected against COVID-19. An Chul-soo, chairman of the COVID-19 Emergency Response Committee, said authorities will release new COVID-19 response guidelines to tackle key issues within the first 100 days of the new Yoon administration.
Thanks very much for your report today, Yoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend. Now, moving on, as reports continue to mount about mass civilian killings by Russian forces in Ukraine, the UN has made the rare move of suspending Russia from its leading human rights body.
The resolution to kick Moscow out of the Human Rights Council garnered 93 votes in favour. 24 countries voted for Russia to stay in with almost 60 abstaining. Our Kim Yo-sun has more.
The UN General Assembly on Thursday decided to suspend Russia from the organization's leading human rights body over alleged violations and abuses of human rights in Ukraine. 93 countries voted in favor of the US-led resolution. 24 countries voted against, including North Korea and China, with 58 abstaining. The resolution expresses, quote, grave concern at the ongoing human rights and humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. Speaking after the vote, Russia's deputy UN ambassador announced that Moscow has decided to quit the council.
The Russian Federation made a decision about ending or suspending its membership in the Human Rights Council before the end of its term on the 7th of April this year. Russia has always considered the Human Rights Council as an important component of the universal system of promoting and protecting human rights. Unfortunately, in today's conditions, the Council is in fact monopolised by one group of states who use it for their short-term aims.
This was echoed by the Kremlin, which expressed its regret about the decision. The EU's ambassador to the UN, however, stressed that the rare decision upholds the integrity of the international body.
Suspension is necessary to uphold the integrity of the Human Rights Council, the authority of the General Assembly, and the credibility of the UN human rights system. The rare decision this Assembly has taken today sends a strong signal of accountability and hopefully will help preventing and discouraging more violations of human rights.
Russia was in the second year of a 3-year term in the 47-member UN Human Rights Council. Suspensions from the council are rare. Libya was suspended in 2011 because of violence against protesters by forces loyal to then-leader Muammar Gaddafi. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
South Korea's Minister of Foreign Affairs Chung Eui-yong on Thursday attended the NATO Foreign Ministers meeting in Brussels. During the meeting, Chung said Seoul will consider providing an additional $30 million of humanitarian aid to Ukraine, bringing the total to $40 million. Also discussed were ways to overcome global security challenges, including Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The importance of cooperation between NATO and its partner countries in building a strong international order was also emphasised. Regarding North Korea, he stressed the need to bring the North back to talks in order to continue the Korean peace process. The nominee for US ambassador to Seoul has underscored the importance of shoring up the South Korea-US alliance. Speaking at his confirmation hearing before the Senate Foreign Services Committee on Thursday, Philip Goldberg stressed that he would place top priority on strengthening the ironclad alliance between the two countries. On North Korea, Goldberg said the US and its allies must resolutely pursue the regime's complete, verifiable and irreversible denuclearization. He emphasized that the goal of achieving that fits with Washington's non-proliferation goals. Goldberg also noted North Korea may conduct additional provocations soon.
Now, following on from that story, multiple US officials are starting to voice their concerns that North Korea could be about to conduct another major provocation, be it another ICBM launch or even a nuclear bomb test. The US Special Representative for North Korea also reiterating his warning to the North that any such action would sharply raise tensions in the region. Kim Da-mi with the details.
The U.S. Special Representative for North Korea has warned the regime may launch further provocations, stressing that Washington and its allies need to be prepared. Sung Kim said on Wednesday there could be another missile launch or even a nuclear test on April 15th, the birth anniversary of the regime's founding leader Kim Il-sung. The event is also known in the North as the Day of the Sun. The U.S. envoy noted that cooperation and coordination are crucial when it comes to dealing with the North. Kim also urged the regime to return to talks, saying the U.S. is prepared to discuss any concerns it may have. On the same day, U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman stressed the need to take strong action to show that Washington has a credible deterrence against any attack by North Korea. Speaking at a House Foreign Services Committee hearing on Wednesday, Sherman also pointed out the regime is expected to stage more military activities. While underlining the importance of China's role in North Korean issues, Sherman urged Beijing to cooperate as Washington and its allies will continue to put pressure on China. She further made it clear that nuclear-armed North Korea is not beneficial to China. Amid speculation that the North may carry out more military activities, an official from South Korea's Unification Ministry said Thursday that Seoul is keeping close tabs on the North's moves while ensuring firm preparedness for all possibilities based on the close alliance with the United States. Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby also on Wednesday reiterated that the U.S. is in constant consultation with South Korea to ensure the allies have adequate capabilities to counter any aggression from the North. But Kirby declined to comment on whether the U.S. may consider deploying strategic military assets to the Korean peninsula to help prevent further military actions by Pyongyang. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
Now it's time for On Point, where we speak to experts to delve deeper into the biggest news stories in the spotlight right now. Korea's famous cherry blossom festivals are largely back this year following a 2-year break that was brought on due to COVID-19 restrictions on large gatherings. Now, a number of venues known for their scenic locations in Seoul have been open to visitors for the past couple of weeks, but this weekend in particular, the blossoms are said to be at their best, most beautiful. So it's really going to be packed with couples, families and picnic goers.
Definitely, and well, despite the festivals being back on, experts are advising visitors to wear their face masks and follow social distancing guidelines while they take in the beautiful sights. For more, we connect to Park So-yeon, local tour coordinator of Korea by Global. Very warm welcome to you. Good morning, and well,
good morning.
First of all, for our international viewers, which cherry blossom festivals are popular both in and outside of Seoul, and also do you have a favorite?
Yeah, spring flower is here again. These days we can see cherry blossom trees throughout the country, so it's very difficult to choose which one is best. But when it comes to its popularities and scale of festival, I can recommend Yeouido Spring Flower Festival in Seoul and Jinhae Gunangje in Gyeongsang Province. Tomorrow, Yeouido Spring Flower Festival begins, so the street will be blocked for the traffic, but the events such as street performance, social activities will not take place. And Yeouido Spring Festival is famous for its more than 1,400 trees. You can enjoy about 1.7 kilometers long cherry blossom street in the heart of Seoul. At night, it's much more beautiful because the trees are LED lit up, blue and pink lights. So the streets are packed with visitors all day long. And Jinhae in Gyeongsang Province is famous for a cherry blossom tunnel on railroad. So when you visit Jinhae this time, you will see this small city covered with blossom. Every time the wind blows, the flowers petal like snow, falling like snow. It creates fantastic scene. It's unforgettable experience.
It certainly is. But why do you think it is that South Koreans really thoroughly enjoy the cherry blossom festivals? Of course, it's April now, so the weather's much nicer. Spring is here, winter's gone, and the trees look great, the blossoms look amazing. But there must be more to it than that.
Korea has 4 seasons, and people can enjoy this blossom only 7 to 10 days in April. So when people see this pink and white cherry blossom and feel the warm breeze, people believe, yes, harsh and long winter ends at last, and spring is here. people feel relaxed and something good and new might happen. It's kind of a feeling of change and hope. So it can be meaningful to them.
And now, some people say that the beauty of cherry blossoms is almost as alluring as the vagueness of its origins, really. And internationally, many people have associated cherry blossoms with Japan. But how do the two really differ, the Korean cherry blossom and the Japanese one? And do we really know where cherry blossoms actually come from?
Yes, travelers sometimes ask me, these cherry trees are originated from Korea, but I can say yes or no because even historians and scientists can say the origin of cherry blossom. There are 100 of variety of cherry trees around the world. Only DNA sample can tell us the difference between trees. So especially Japan celebrated cherry blossom called sakura long time ago. Cherry blossom is hugely symbolic and often present as symbol of Japan. There is a research according to Korean Forest Research Institute. Most of cherry trees in Korea are slightly different species than those of Japan. The Korean cherry tree is known as king cherry, 왕벚꽃, originated from Jeju Island, and cherry blossom trees in Jinae-gunangje, as I mentioned before. The king cherry trees are king cherry trees from Jeju. So just enjoy the beauty of flowers and leave the origin as a mystery.
Yeah, I mean, that adds to the feeling of just being able to enjoy nature, not worrying too much about from where it came from. Now, for people watching who might be interested in heading to their first Cherry Blossom Festival this weekend, what tips would you give them? You mentioned before that it does get very, very busy. So would you say it's best to go early in the day or late at night? And should they bring their own refreshments, food and drink?
Yes, this week in Seoul, cherry blossoms tree burst in bloom like pink and white popcorn. So if you want to visit this popular area, I recommend going the places in the weekdays or in the morning on weekends. But I totally understand you don't want to miss the night view of Cherry Blossom Street. But make sure to wear a mask, no food, and no social activities allowed in the area. If you are worried about the people gathering, visit Gyeongju or Daejeon City for drive-through Cherry Blossom Street. Actually, cherry blossom trees are all over the Korea now, so this week, just visit the place near you is the best place to see flowers.
Well, I certainly will be checking out some of those festivals this weekend. And well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
South Korean President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol visited U.S. military base Camp Humphreys in a city south of Seoul on Thursday. His visit highlighted his pledge to strengthen Seoul's ironclad military alliance with the United States against nuclear and missile threats from North Korea. Lee Kyung-eun reports.
President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol on Thursday flew by helicopter to where he calls the heart of the South Korea-U.S. alliance, the U.S. military base Camp Humphreys in Pyeongtaek. Yoon met General Paul LaCamera, commander of South Korea-U.S. Combined Forces Command, and his troops. He thanked them for their contributions and called for a strengthened alliance amid increasing security threats facing South Korea.
President-elect Yoon said strong deterrence through the Korea-U.S. military alliance and combined defense posture cannot be emphasized enough with the grave international security situation surrounding the Korean peninsula, including North Korea's recent intercontinental ballistic missile launch.
General LaCamera also emphasized the importance of the ironclad alliance and thanked the South Korean people for allowing the construction of the military base. The U.S. troops are currently moving to Camp Humphreys from Yongsan in central Seoul, near the Defense Ministry compound. And that's actually where Yoon is pushing to relocate the presidential office to from the current Blue House. Yoon's initial plan was to start his term there on the first day of taking office. But that plan was virtually made impossible due to the late passage of the related budget and the relocation having to be done in phases due to security concerns. So the transition team is reportedly reviewing a backup plan, setting up a temporary office within the Defense Ministry building somewhere between floors 5 and 10. Those are the floors that the ministry will move out of first. The actual presidential office is expected to be located between the first and fourth floors. An official from the Transition Committee ruled out any potential leak in security, saying there's already a military intelligence system at the Defense Ministry. And the Presidential Emergency Control System will also be set up by May 10th. The Defense Ministry is expected to start moving out on Friday, with staff there already starting to pack up and destroy confidential documents. Yoon, Arirang News.
The chair of President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol's Transition Committee says a reshaping of the government will not take place as soon as Yoon takes office in mid-May. Nominations for cabinet appointments will be done according to the current structure, including for the Gender Equality Minister, which is a ministry Yoon pledged to dissolve if he won the election. Kim Do-yeon tells us more.
The Presidential Transition Committee has announced that it will not be pushing for a reshape of the government structure during the transition period, and necessary nominations will be made according to the current structure.
We decided that reshaping the government structure in a hurry during the transition period is not the best idea. Considering the serious economic situation at home and abroad, as well as the situation with national security, we would rather focus on issues of immediate concern, such as stabilizing the livelihoods of the people, as well as diplomacy and national security.
New incoming administrations usually have plans to reorganize the country's executive branch by creating additional ministries or adjusting their roles. But it takes time and effort, as changes need parliamentary approval, which the soon-to-be main opposition, Democratic Party of Korea, holds the majority. He added that opinions could differ on how to structure the new government, but Yoon and his administration will do their best to take all of them into account, including those of the opposition parties. And in making changes, the new government will incorporate its experiences with the current structure and make sure the changes fit society as it is today. For example, one of the pledges made by President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol during his run for office was to abolish the current Gender Equality and Family Ministry, which in Korean only has the word women in its name, as he believed its current direction towards achieving equality is outdated. However, with this new announcement, Chairman An Chol-soo said a nomination for its minister will be made for the time being.
The appointed Gender Equality and Family Minister will run the ministry and have the responsibility to figure out what the problems are and to see what will be good adjustments.
Earlier on Thursday morning, the President-elect's Chief of Staff, Chang Jae-won, said Yoon and his team are working to announce additional key cabinet nominations starting this Sunday, especially for Finance Minister. He said no positions that are yet to be announced have been confirmed for nomination, including the Chief of Staff for the President, which Chang believes will not be one of the first announcements to be made. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
A South Korean tugboat has reportedly gone missing near Taiwan. Taiwanese maritime authorities alerted South Korea's Ministry of Foreign Affairs that the Kyoto-1 ship with 6 Koreans on board sent a distress signal from its west coast on Thursday morning. The boat was towing another vessel to Indonesia. Seoul's foreign ministry has launched an emergency task force for an around-the-clock search and dispatched a patrol ship. Meanwhile, a South Korean maritime helicopter on its way to search for the boat crashed near the country's southernmost island of Manado at around 1:30 a.m. on Friday, killing 2 and leaving 1 unaccounted for.
Welcome to Dialogue This Week. In this corner, we invite guests from in and out of Korea to talk about a wide variety of issues ranging from culture and sports to the latest trends around the world. The drawing of groups for the upcoming World Cup took place last weekend, setting the stage for the games in Qatar, which begin on November 21st. The tournament is still quite some time away, but it will, when it does kick off, it will begin with a match between Senegal and the Netherlands, followed by England and Iran. Now that the teams know who they'll be up against, the countdown begins in earnest, as well as the bets on who will become the world champion on December 18th. Joining us to discuss the world's biggest football competition is Tae-ryung Kim, South Korean football commentator, former player and director of Fit Together. We also have joining us Stephen Price, senior contributor to Forbes and former Korean Football Association subcommittee member. Very warm welcome to you both. Sorry about my stammering this morning. And well, let's begin with you. Tae-ryung, now, I want to hear all about your reaction to the draw for this year's 2022 Qatar World Cup, which took place a week ago. What was your initial reaction?
I was watching the group stage draw live. As you know, South Korea had the possibility to be in either Group E or H, like everyone else. I also was hoping that my country would not be picked for Group E, but to be picked for other groups. Frankly, despite the group stage draw, World Cup has always been a very difficult tournament for Korea. But in the end, Korea has ended up in a very interesting group, as every team has a possibility to qualify.
And Steve, well, South Korea is going to be in Group H, and the World Cup sees the country in action against Portugal, Uruguay and Ghana. Now, Uruguay is South America's heavyweight. They eliminated Portugal and Russia back in 2018 and Ghana in South Africa back in 2010. Now, how do you see the multiple repeated rivalries in this group?
Yeah, there's some great rivalries in this group, and especially Uruguay against Ghana. Back in 2010, there's never been an African country who's reached the semi-final, but Ghana came the closest then, and they faced Uruguay in the quarterfinals. But that game had a lot of controversy. It was 1-1 with 120 minutes gone, and it was going to go to penalties when Ghana had this great chance, but Luis Suarez from Uruguay handled the ball on the line and got sent off. Ghana should have scored that, but because he blocked it, they didn't score, and that goal would have sent them to the World Cup, to the semi-finals. Now, Ghana went on, they had the penalty, and they missed it in the last minute, and went out on penalties. So I think there's probably a lot of people in Ghana who are really wanting to see them avenge Uruguay in that match. And I think you're right about Uruguay being one of those heavyweights. They always seem to do well in the World Cup. They're such a small country, but they've got this real kind of gritty street football philosophy. And that's seen them kind of win the World Cup twice. They've got to the semi-finals on 3 occasions, and they've got out of the group stages in the last 3 years. So I think they're the kind of team nobody wants to play.
Exactly. And well, Tae-ryung, now Portugal and Uruguay, despite having star strikers like Cristiano Ronaldo and Edinson Cavani, are teams with a rather aged squad. And while these players can provide moments of brilliance and excellent individual skills, of course, there could be a downside with teams that are over-dependent on their senior players. And we can't deny that age does play a big role in athletics. So how do you assess these teams, and how do they compare to the South Korean team?
They are both superstars and have been leaders of their teams for a long time. Every team needs very experienced players, and they have a clear role in the team. However, having a number of experienced players and the fact that the average age is high has positive and negative sides. Both Ronaldo and Cavani has problems with their defensive contributions. So any team that faces Portugal and Uruguay can utilize these players' positioning during the attacking phase. At the same time, these two superstars have the ability to overcome their cons in one moment, and that is that they can score better than anyone else.
And Tae-ryung, another question to you. Now, what's quite interesting is that leading the South Korean team is Portuguese head coach Paulo Bento. Now, he himself played against South Korea back in the 2002 World Cup, and now he will be coaching against his native country. Is this a rather tough situation for a head coach to be in?
Yeah, yesterday Paulo Bento has revealed that he was hoping not face Portugal in the same group. He commented that the reason for that would be quite clear for everyone. In sports, we often can witness these situations. Paulo Bento has represented his country for a long time and has served as the head coach of the national team from 2010 to 2014. After all, he is professional and the head coach of the South Korean national team for now. He also revealed that he will treat and prepare for this game just like any other games.
And Hae-ryung, meanwhile, the South Korean national team will be captained by Son Heung-min. This will be his third straight World Cup. What are fans expecting from him, one as a leading forward and two as a team captain?
Yeah, Son Heung-min is Korea's iconic figure, leader, and captain, considering his age 30 and his form. It can be said that he is at his peak. It's very difficult for one player to serve the role of both leader and the ace of a team. Also, Son has received stress and pressure from this. He's acting both roles out superbly. As Korea's attacking player, he can play both centrally and on the wider areas. For some time, he has had a difficult period due to the stylistic difference in playing style from his club team and his national team. But now he produced a lot of attacking points with the national team. He also served the team very well as a captain. On the field, he is a role model to everyone and is receiving a lot of support due to his amazing interview skills. Korean fans ask for a lot from Son, but it seems like Son now is ready.
Well, the pressure is on, though, and anticipation, of course, is very high. And Steve, well, there is no such thing as an easy group in the World Cup, but how do you see South Korea's chances in their group? How is negotiating the group different for the national team compared to being grouped with recent champions and contenders like France, Brazil or Germany?
Yeah, you're right. There's absolutely no easy groups in the World Cup. I think South Korea will be quite glad, though, because they avoided some of the tougher teams in Pot 2, teams like Germany and the Netherlands and Mexico, although I would have liked to see them avoid Uruguay as well. They're also one of those really tough teams. And on paper, South Korea's group looks quite good. I mean, they're playing the lowest-ranked team in Group 1, which is Portugal, and the lowest-ranked team in Group 4, which is Ghana. But it's a very unpredictable group, this one, because I think Portugal they're still a really great side, but they're not up there with maybe like France or Brazil at the moment. They've got some real superstar players, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo, Manchester United's Bruno Fernandes. They've got João Phoenix, who's the third most expensive football signing in the world. But their form's been really inconsistent, to be honest. They didn't do that well in Euro 2020. They only won their first game in that, where they beat Hungary through some late goals. And then they got absolutely torn apart by Germany and ended up going out of that competition quite early. In World Cup qualifying also, they only came second in their group to Serbia. So they haven't really beaten any of the top teams for a while. So we've got to say they're a great team, but they're not invincible. So you can see some of the other teams perhaps getting a result against them. And I think that makes the group a very open group where, anyone could end up in the next round.
And Steve, every World Cup throws up a group of death. So what is this group of death? And, well, some seem to say that it's going to be Group H this year. What do you say?
Yeah, in the past, there were so many groups of death. FIFA actually kind of changed how they did the draw recently. And so I don't think there's as many as there were in the past. We haven't seen a group like in 2014 when we had 3 World Cup champions, Uruguay, Italy and England, all in the same group. Although that kind of maybe shows that groups of death are just a figment of the media because Costa Rica ended up winning that group. This time, a lot of the English press have actually said England have an easy group, but on paper, they've got the hardest group according to the FIFA rankings. I wouldn't go as far as to call them a group of death, though. I think I'd have to agree with Mr. Kim here, saying that Group E is really the group I'd want to avoid, and I feel a bit sorry maybe for Japan. They got an easier group maybe than Korea in the last World Cup, but this time they've got Spain and Germany, so that's the group of death if there is one.
And Tae-ryung, now South Korea finished second in Group A in the final Asian qualifying phase, and the Asian Games will be held in September, which is 2 months before the World Cup. Is it not strenuous, though, for the team to participate in 2 major events within such a short period?
Yes, it's been a long time since Korea has comfortably finished their final qualifying round for the World Cup. But for now, top of the group or run-up doesn't really matter so much. The Asian Games is a very complicated matter. As you know, if the team wins the gold medal in the competition, they are rewarded with regards to their national service. Hwang So-nong is currently in charge of the U23 team, the Asian Game team that will complete the Asian Games. So there must be a smooth consolation between the A team and the under 23 team. As a matter of fact, the key players of the A team will not be so affected by the Asian Games, but there will be some players who will have to go through a very tight schedule in fall. But after all, the most important competition will be the World Cup for Korea.
And Steve, well, it's no secret that there is such a thing as a favourable group draw and a difficult one. Are there any groups, though, where teams have an obvious advantage?
I'd say France seems to have a group which they'll be quite happy with. There's actually this thing called the World Cup curse, which has seen previous winners fail in the group stage. We saw it with Germany in the last World Cup. Before that, we saw it with Spain and Italy. But at the moment, France, they've got Denmark in their group, they've got Tunisia, and then they're going to have one of either Peru, Australia, or the United Arab Emirates. So I feel like they're definitely going to be very pleased with the draw and feel like they'll be quite confident that they can get through the group.
And well, before you go, this question goes to both of you, but let's begin with you, Tae-ryung. Now, what are you looking forward to the most, and who do you predict will lift the trophy?
Korea. Let's believe that my dream will come true one day. I think one of the traditional powerhouse will win the World Cup. England or Argentina, France, Spain, Germany, or maybe Brazil. I guess everyone will be on the same page, are we not? Who should we pick? In my pick, this time I prefer Argentina.
And how about you, Steve?
Yeah, I'm very excited about England this World Cup. They've seemed to have a really good squad coming through, and they've done quite well in the last 2 tournaments. But I'm not going to pick them because I don't want to jinx them. I think Spain are one of the teams to really look out for. They've got this new kind of dynamic midfield with a lot of players from Barcelona playing together. And this World Cup, it doesn't come at the end of the season. It comes right in the middle. So teams are not going to have much time to prepare. So I feel like Spain, with the players already knowing each other so well, that's going to give them an advantage.
See, that was Tae-ryung Kim and Stephen Price. Thank you both so much for your time today.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
US jobless claims fell to 166,000 last week, a figure not seen in more than half a century, according to the US Department of Labor on Thursday. The 4-week average for claims also dropped by 8,000 to 170,000. The latest numbers, the lowest since November 1968, reflects a job market currently experiencing a severe worker shortage, with employers retaining workers at higher rates. Weekly unemployment claims have been declining for most of the year since reaching a previously unseen high of 6.5 million in March 2020. Now, while many people in South Korea are eagerly awaiting the day Cheonghwa Day, the presidential office opens to the public, there's a similar facility that has been welcoming decades for over a decade. The presidential retreat, located in the Cheongju area, has attracted some 800,000 visitors every year since 2003. It's called Cheongnam Day, and our Kim Bok-young went to check it out and files this report.
Everyone needs a vacation, and that is the same for the country's leader. Cheongnam-dae, located on the shore of Daecheongo Lake, was that place, offering South Korea's presidents a peaceful retreat. Its name means Cheonghwa-dae, the Blue House in a warm southern land, and the villa was built on the orders of former President Chun Doo-hwan, who was mesmerized by the exquisite beauty of the lake. 5 presidents used this presidential summer house over a period of around 20 years until former President Roh Moo-hyun kept his pledge to open up the secretive site to the public.
네, 여기 지금 달력을 보니까 2003년 4월에 멈춰 있어요. 그리고 4월 18일에 이렇게 그 화살표 표시가 되어 있는데 좀 어떤 의미가 있는 날이었을까요?
네, 의미가 있는 날이에요. 왜냐하면 2003년도 4월 17일 날 노무현 대통령께서 오셔서 하루를 주무시고 그 당시 청원군민 천여 분을 모시고 청남대 개방 행사를 해주셨습니다. 그래서 이제 청남대 소유권이 충청북도로 이양된 기념이라고 생각하시면 됩니다.
Since then, the presidential office, bedrooms, dining rooms, and other areas have been open for the public to enjoy, revealing how presidents spent their vacation.
Cheongnam-dae preserves furniture, curtains, and even paintings that former presidents actually used. It makes visitors feel like as if they have taken a time machine back to 1983.
The summer house is set in beautiful surroundings. Along with 14 kilometers of natural trails through Metasequoia Forest, visitors can see a musical fountain in front of the Presidential Memorial Hall, which is a 3/5 replica of Cheonghwa-dae.
The breeze is nice and air is fresh. It's so nice how the public can enjoy such place.
Regarding the Blue House, which is soon to open to the public, officials at Cheongnam-dae say they are looking forward to working with those in charge while aiming to attract visitors with the retreat's own strength.
Cheongnam-dae is the only site that encompasses natural scenery alongside the Daecheongho Lake and its trails, and it has records and utensils of former presidents. With the group in charge of opening up the Blue House, we aim to come up with an all-in-one tour package or have a promotional booth of Cheongnam-dae in the Blue House, a win-win strategy.
Now, with the Provisional Government Memorial Hall soon to open on April 11th, Cheongnam-dae visitors will be able to enjoy more of the country's history while relaxing in nature. Kim Bok-young, Arirang News.
And now for a look at news from around the world, we are going to turn to our Lee Seung-jae standing by at our newsroom. Good morning, SJ.
Good morning to you guys.
Good morning, Seung-jae. Now let's start in the US, where Ketanji Brown Jackson was confirmed by the Senate, becoming the first black woman to serve on the Supreme Court.
That's right. History certainly was made on Thursday as the U.S. Senate confirmed Ketanji Brown Jackson as the next Supreme Court justice, making her the first black woman to serve on the country's top court. Now, the Senate voted 53-47 in favor to confirm the 51-year-old federal appellate judge to the lifetime position at the top judicial body. A simple majority was all she needed as Jackson overcame Republican opposition, with 3 Republicans, including Mitt Romney, voting in favor. Jackson will replace 83-year-old Justice Stephen Breyer, who is due to serve until the court's current term ends, likely in late June. Of the 115 people who have served on the Supreme Court, all but 3 have been white, with Jackson also set to become just the 6th female justice ever. Now, at least 2 people have been killed and several others injured as a gunman targeted a crowded bar in the restaurant district of Tel Aviv. While calling it a terrorist attack, Israeli police say the attacker is still at large and have called on citizens to remain indoors. Local reports say that there was only one shooter who opened fire at a short range and then fled on foot. The latest deadly shooting comes on the heels of a wave of shootings in Tel Aviv, with 13 people now having been killed over the past month, the sharpest spike in such attacks in Israel for years. And now torrential rain slammed Australia's east coast on Thursday, with Sydney receiving nearly a month's worth of rain overnight. The heavy rainfall has turned suburban roads into rivers and triggered evacuations as authorities warn of more rain throughout the day. Emergency crews urged the harbour city's 5 million residents to avoid unnecessary travel and brace for further evacuation orders. Now, Sydney has received 1,227 millimeters of rain so far this year, more than its average annual rainfall of 1,213. Now, the country's Bureau of Meteorology say many coastal towns could get up to 180 millimeters of rain over the next 24 hours. And now finally, Libya has received 9 ancient artifacts that were returned by the United States after being smuggled out of the North African country. All the returned pieces have been illegally excavated and shipped to the U.S. However, they were identified by archaeologists working with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office in New York and have been returned to the Museum of Libya in Tripoli. Among the grandest pieces returned were 4 funerary heads. Now, once a major province of the Roman Empire and home to numerous coastal ruins, Libya boasts a wealth of archaeological sites with its museums known for their array of ancient treasures.
Good morning. It's a chilly start today. Morning lows are a couple of degrees lower than seasonal norms. Then we'll have much warmer conditions across the country with lots of sunshine to boot, leading to nearly 15 degrees of temperature differences today in the capital. I must say it's quite challenging to dress for this kind of weather. Morning lows are 3 to 5 degrees lower than yesterday, but aside from the chilly start, we are looking at fine spring weather again. Highs will be 2 to 5 degrees higher this afternoon. Seoul going up to 20 degrees, Taiwan at 23 degrees, along with normal to good air quality nationwide, but dry alerts remain in place in most parts. The capital's cherry blossoms have reached near peak bloom. In fact, cherry blossoms on the streets of Seoul's Yeouido neighborhood will finally be open to the public for the first time in 3 years this weekend. Spotty rain is in the forecast tomorrow morning in the capital and Chungcheong-do provinces, while wildfire risks continue with the weekend warm-up. With that, here's a look at the weather conditions around the globe.
Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Oh Si-young. We appreciate you tuning in to our very last A New Day at Arirang with Mark Broom. But Mark Broom fans, don't fear. He will be presenting the midday news from Monday, so you can catch him then.
Yes, no more waking up at 3 a.m. for me. Unfortunately, you'll be waking up at 3 a.m.
That's right.
But Lee Seung-jae will be coming into this spot, and he's a wonderful replacement, and I'll be here at noon every weekday. Thank you, as always, for joining us. New Day at Arirang with Soo-yeon. Soo-young and Lee Seung-jae will be back at 8 a.m. Korea time on Monday. Until then, goodbye and have a wonderful weekend.
Everyone knows I'm passionate. Know why? Look at how passionate Koreans are. And you know I'm fast. Don't blink. Koreans move fast too. I'm creative on the pitch. People say I'm smart. Just look how smart Korea is. I aim to be spectacular for the fans. Why am I so fun? Is it because Korea is so much fun?